Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
A magic beyond anything you could ever imagine.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Sagrera Farms on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day.
You really think that's the best idea?
Live from the Raising Cane's studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
He's quite a piece of work.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Raising Cane studio downtown in the capital city on this Thursday, working towards the weekend, brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Got Jordan Kitchens, Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. Fired up. You are here with us, Luke Johnson, in 15 minutes talking some Saints. ESPN's got a way too early college football top 25 I'd like to touch on, not only LSU, but also teams LSU plays. What does ESPN think of them at this point on the calendar? We'll see if anything breaks in the world of Jordan Seaton. We'll certainly get to that if it does. I'm excited in 1 hour to talk to Brody Miller. Brody, of course, was on the LSU football beat for The Athletic, moved over to the PGA Tour. We're not going to talk about golf. Well, not a lot. We're going to talk about his alma mater, Indiana, winning a national championship. Brody was down there on South Beach. He was in the stadium as his alma mater did the unthinkable, and I just kind of want to get a look through the fans' eyes from Brody, and may throw a live golf question in there too while we have him. We'll talk to Brody in an hour. Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers, in an hour and 15 minutes. We'll talk some basketball with Chris. Also got to talk travel because LSU and Arkansas are scheduled to play on Saturday evening in Fayetteville, and the weather there looks atrocious. So travel in and out for LSU could be an issue. I checked with LSU earlier today. No significant changes have been made. They're still planning on flying tomorrow. They were probably going to bump things up just a little bit as far as their departure time, but certainly no cancellations or anything at this point. But we'll talk to Chris about what he knows in an hour and 15 minutes at 2:15. So plenty to do. Let's crank it up the way we do every day with our opening drive.
Welcome to the big league.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive. Presented by Fabry Chevrolet GMC in St. Francisville.
All right, y'all, there's no breaking news, so I'm going to talk a little baseball. I went out to the box yesterday, watched LSU play. I figure if anything were to break with Jordan Seaton, I would get to that and kind of put a bow on LSU's transfer portal class. None of that's really happened. Lane Kiffin's shaking some trees down in New Orleans, looking for some players. He visited Easton Royal earlier today at Brother Martin. He went over and is now at St. Aug, but nothing massively breaking. So I'd like to talk about the defending champs. Let's do that. Yesterday, got a chance to go out there, and I saw what I thought I would see from a pitching perspective in terms of personnel. It was explained to me back in December that this was going to be the ramp up heading to opening weekend. The four guys in Pod A here are Kason Evans, Cooper Moore, Kansas' former ace, Cooper Williams, left-handed sophomore who had a really nice freshman year last year, and Zach Cowan. That's the first pod when you look at pointing towards Friday and Saturday of opening weekend. Doesn't mean that those spots are solidified or put in stone. It's just kind of where they're starting as they ramp up for opening day, which is in 3 weeks from tomorrow. So those four guys pitched yesterday, and quite frankly, they didn't pitch great. It's okay. I'm not canceling Omaha reservations. I'm not booking Omaha reservations based on 5 innings of a scrimmage I watched in the middle of January. But those guys were not at their best yesterday. Kason Evans had some control issues early on. He did not get the third out in the first inning. Jay Johnson had to pull everybody off the field for pitch count. In the second inning, he would have gotten out of the inning. He got a double play ball. It was mishandled at second base by Tanner Reeves on the exchange. And then the next hitter was Seth Dardar, Kansas State transfer. And Kason fell behind him 3-1, and Dardar rode it out of the yard to right center field. So not Kason Evans' sharpest performance. I didn't love the way he looked, but it's fine. He'll get right back on the horse next week, and he's a pretty talented dude. My concern level on Kason Evans is pretty close to zero as far as him being an effective pitcher. Just wasn't his day yesterday, and that's okay. Cooper Moore's line score was good yesterday. This is a guy who I believe is in line to be LSU's second or third starter at this point. He was good in spots. His fastball is about 94 most of the day, and he throws a really hard slider. When I say hard, I mean the velocity is high. He throws about 87 with the slider. He wasn't great with that pitch. He hit Stephen Milam with it, skipped a couple. It wasn't his best effort, but he didn't give up the big swing, and he got out of the innings that he was asked to get out of. So I thought Cooper Moore kind of showed what I thought he would be. Threw a lot of strikes early on, got out of some trouble. Certainly wasn't dominant at any point, but he's a good arm, and I liked what I saw from him there. Cooper Williams pitched in a little bit of rain. It was kind of misty out there, kind of nasty. He got hit pretty hard. He's a guy that is not going to overpower you with stuff. We saw that last year. He just throws a lot of strikes. He threw a lot of strikes yesterday, and they got hit pretty hard. And then Zach Cowan did what I would imagine Zach Cowan will generally do. He threw a lot of strikes. His fastball was in the low 90s. He throws a lot of changeups. The Cowan issue, and the thing that I want to see from him, not only right now, but also the next week and then into the season, if they're going to use him in a starting role, which is not guaranteed at this point. I think it's a possibility, but I also think if they're winning game 1 of the season 4-2 in the 8th inning, you're probably going to see Zach Cowan. But for him to stretch out in the SEC, he did this at Wofford, but that's a different level. In the SEC, he's got to throw a better breaking ball. He's got a good fastball. He's got a really good changeup, but the breaking ball is not a plus pitch. If he wants to throw 5 or 6 innings weekly in the SEC, the breaking ball is going to have to come along, and that wasn't great yesterday. It wasn't a great day by the LSU pitchers yesterday. That's okay. They'll have more guys go out there today. I think William Schmidt will probably pitch today, and that's a guy that they're going to lean on and that hopefully has a monster year. And those guys that I talked about that I saw yesterday, maybe better next week. If we're going to go on the negative side, I got one more and then a real positive that I saw. Tanner Reeves last year lost his playing time at third base because his defense wasn't good enough. They put Michael Braswell out there to hit a .130 because he played good defense. And Tanner Reeves has been moved to second base. He's in the competition there at second base with Seth Dardar, with Braden Simpson. Those 3 guys are probably competing for that spot at second base. And Tanner Reeves did not have a good day defensively at second base. I mentioned the double play ball that Kaysen Evans got that wasn't turned, and then Dardar hit the home run. Well, it was a ground ball to Milam. Milam scooped it, kind of an awkward pitch to second base, but it got to second base, and Reeves caught it and then did not make the transfer and did not turn the double play. It should have been turned. And then in the next inning, there's a runner on second base, and Zach Yort, big hulking first baseman, hit a firm ground ball with a lot of topspin to the right side of the infield. And Reeves was moving to his left towards first base, and he played it off to the side and whiffed it. And it went right, bounded into right field, and that run came in to score. That play, the ball's got to be kept in the infield. You've got a guy running to first base that literally weighs 300 pounds. I don't need you playing it off to the side, laying it, and having it bound into right field. Get on a knee, knock it down with your chest, and toss it to first base. And that's just, Reeves is going to have to play better defense. If he doesn't play better defense, he's not going to play. I think he's a good hitter. I think Jay Johnson thinks he's a good hitter. But if you can't defend on the infield, you're not going to play. LSU, one of the hallmarks of that team last year was defense. It was the best defensive LSU team, perhaps in history. By fielding percentage, it was. Now, fielding percentage doesn't tell the entire story, but it was a really good defensive team. And if you're not going to play defense, you're not going to play. And oh, by the way, one of the guys he's competing with at second base, Dardar, homered off Kaysen Evans and had an RBI single later as well. So it's one day, but got to play defense. Speaking of defense, I told you I want to talk about a huge positive. Cade Arambede's defense yesterday at catcher was awesome. It was awesome. On back-to-back pitches, he blocked up a slider with the runner on base, and then he threw out Braden Simpson trying to steal second base from his knees the next pitch. So back-to-back pitches, great play to block it up, great arm to throw the guy out. He made multiple good enough blocks to where I went, oh yeah, that ball's in the dirt, hard sliders that bounced in front of the plate that he's corralling in front of home plate. It was really impressive. And the one time that he did allow, and I use air quotes there with him allowing because it would have been a wild pitch, he did allow a runner to go from second to third. He did block it. He picked up his bare hand and fired it to third base, and I thought it was in time. The umpire ruled him safe. It might have been one that you would review in a real game, but it was a good defensive play, but the runner did advance. Arambede this time last year, when I would go out to scrimmages in the preseason, was struggled defensively. Struggled. And Omar Cerna, the backup catcher, struggled at times yesterday. He let a couple of extra of balls get to the backstop, allowed a couple of free bases. These catchers that come from high school, in high school they're catching 84, 85 mile an hour fastballs a lot of times, loopy curve balls. It's just not firm stuff. You come to LSU, everybody you're catching is 94 to 97. Everybody's got a hard slider. It's just a different world catching back there. And just like freshmen have to adjust to hitting that stuff, the catchers have to adjust to catching it. And that's something that Kate Arambidi struggled with early last year. He was great yesterday. That was very encouraging to see, I thought. So those were kind of the overarching themes. From a personnel standpoint, Jay Johnson kind of split the lineup. He had Stanfield, Curiel, and Brown in the outfield for one team, and then the infield for the other team included Milam and Caraway, who I believe are the starters at shortstop at second. So kind of had the first team outfield with a reserve infield and the first team infield with a reserve outfield. But Braden Simpson, who is, I believe, in the running to play second base with Dardar and Reeves, he was playing first base yesterday. Zach York was the other first baseman. So you're just kind of getting a look at what they're looking at there. And I think that competition is going to be moving forward. I believe, as I sit here right now, that the only jobs up for grab are second, first, and DH. And I'm not even sold that first base is up for grabs. It would surprise me if Zach York was not the first baseman. I wouldn't be flatline stunned if Simpson started there at first base, but I think Zach York is going to play first base. You would think, just from looking at Zach York, who is 6'2", 295, you would think, well, he can't play defense. He's a big softball playing left-handed hitter. He moves okay, and he is a big target at first base. 6'2" is enough size. So I'm not 100% certain Braden Simpson's a better defensive first baseman than Zach York. Simpson played infield last year at High Point, but I don't know. And so they'll figure that out. Maybe Simpson's a better option at second. Right now it feels like Dardar's got a shot there, and I think Reeves does too. I think he'll get better on defense, but he's got to. So it's 5 innings of baseball that I watched. I thought the pitchers were not quite sharp. I do want to credit LSU's offensive players, specifically Curiel, specifically Brown. Those guys drew walks against good pitchers and forced the ball into the strike zone. This is, I think right now, probably a team that's offense is a little bit ahead of its pitching, especially when you talk about roles being carved out. LSU's talent from a pitching perspective is immense, but they don't really know what anybody's doing right now. I think Kason Evans is at the front. I think Cooper Moore is a starter. And I think everybody else is kind of up for grabs at this point. So from a position player standpoint, like, you got Aaron Beatty locked in, you got Milam locked in, you got Caraway locked in, you got Stanfield, you got Curiel, you got Brown. There's just a lot that's going to be locked into that lineup, and there's just not that much from a pitching perspective. So it won't surprise me if I go out there a couple more times if the offense swings the bat really well, especially as you move toward further down the pitching staff, which you will. Those were the first 4 guys out yesterday, and we'll see what the rest of the weekend plays out. My anticipation is that group of 4 pitchers that I mentioned at the top, Kason Evans, Cooper Moore, Cooper Williams, Zach Cowan. Yesterday was Wednesday, right? So they'll pitch Wednesday and then Thursday of next week and then Friday, and they'll be ready to go for the following Friday. That's my anticipation at this point. So we'll see how that all shakes out. But great to be out there without a jacket on at the box yesterday. Guess that won't be the case the rest of the weekend. We'll see how much practice they're able to get in once this weather turns south here pretty quickly. But great to see those guys out there yesterday. And I'll have a report up at LouisianaSports.net now for free. I will continue to do that whenever I can get out there and see a scrimmage here. I know y'all are clamoring for it. The portal is closed. Spring football is kind of far in the in the front view, I guess. You don't have a big signing day coming up for football, and basketball is 1-5 in the league right now and playing one of the toughest games they're going to play all year on Saturday. So it's a time where I'm going to fill a need here where it permits and talk about a little baseball, write about a little baseball on LouisianaSports.net. So y'all come along with me, won't you? Jay Johnson met with the Rotary Club earlier today, so he's fully engaged on the speaking circuit. Had the first pitch banquet, had the Rotary Club. I'm sure he'll be making the rounds on our station here coming up. He will speak tomorrow at length to the media, kind of start the media tour of preseason baseball. I think a lot of times we would hear spring when in terms of football for this semester. I don't really want to call this spring baseball right now. It's not spring. Preseason baseball. He'll meet tomorrow with the media at 11 o'clock, and I'll certainly talk about that on my show when we fire up tomorrow. So that's a look at baseball. Our Thursday show is brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. When we come back, Luke Johnson talking Saints.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Not going to be a good weekend to play golf. Just going to tell you. Rain, cold, but it's a weekend. You don't have work. You don't have class. But you'd like to play some golf. You can outside. The weather's bad. Swing Easy Golf Club. There you go. Problem solved. Get a tee time. Get an individual bay. Bring some friends. Fire up some football on the TV. get the music going, get a bucket of beer delivered in there, play Pebble Beach. It's going to look gorgeous on a dismal weekend in Baton Rouge. Play TPC Sawgrass. Look gorgeous on a dismal weekend in Baton Rouge. Just a different way to experience golf and one that doesn't count on the weather. So get a tee time or just walk in. They're Seaton at Perkins. You can find them online at swingeasygcbr.com. Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge online, swingeasygcbr.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Thursday show is brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. ESPN's Way Too Early Top 25 for 2026 is out. We'll talk about it next. We'll talk some Saints with Luke Johnson from NOLA.com and The Advocate. Joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Luke, how are you?
Well, I don't know if I want to talk to the Cubs fan friend of my life right now. But outside of that, everything's going okay.
If y'all figure this out, I don't know what I'm going to do. I have no idea.
I was texting our mutual friend, another Cubs fan, friend of ours, that it would be maybe the most hilariously on-brand thing if the Cubs go out and sign Bregman, and then the Brewers trade away their ace, and yet we still finish first in the division. I'm not expecting it, but I haven't expected it for years. And
there's some kind of witchcraft going on up there. I can't quite figure it out. Hopefully we've figured that out by now. Let's talk some Saints. Tyler Shuck's a finalist for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Would you vote for him?
I would. Maybe I'm a little bit too close to the situation. I think to me it'd be down between him and Jackson Dart if I were really looking at this. I think Ibuka and McMillan, and McMillan's the betting favorite. I think they had really nice rookie seasons, but I mean, if you look over the last 7 or 8 years of the league, I think a 1,000-yard season or a 950-yard season is kind of just like par for the course for a nice rookie season. Brian Thomas Jr. had 13 or 1,400 receiving yards last year. That would have blown me away. I would have been like, yeah, that's a rookie of the year. I look at what Shuck did, and I think he was pretty clearly the most impactful rookie in this year's class, taking a team that went 1-8 before 1-7 before he got in there, and taking them to go 5-4 down the stretch. Playing really, really good football, really kind of changing the fortunes of a franchise in the span of 8 weeks. I think that to me is making a worthy case for him. In addition to all the statistics that kind of back it up, passer ratings right up there at the top of the rookie class, passing yards per game, completion percentage, success rate, all the other metrics you want to throw out there. He's right at the top or near the top. I don't know. I would feel good about it, but I would understand if it goes somewhere else, just because the numbers, the sheer amount of games, kind of works against him with him only starting 9 games.
How do you believe, if you do believe, the tone of the conversation changed in the Saints front office and with their head coach about this specific offseason as Tyler Shuck was putting that last month and a half together?
I mean, it better have changed, right? They have a huge opportunity in front of them now. They have a quarterback on a rookie contract. I was trying to figure this out. Probably the last time they had a quarterback on a rookie contract that they could really build around was Aaron Brooks.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah,
25 years ago, right? And the economics of the game have changed so drastically in that span. I mean, you're talking that's like nearly a quarter of the NFL's existence as a league, right? So yeah, I mean, it's a huge chip in their favor. Somebody who's going to be arguably the most important player on your roster, making $2 million a year. You have a chance here to accelerate this rebuild very quickly. I think they have to be careful with how they do it. But yeah, if they were looking at this and they weren't being okay, the iron's hot, we better strike. Then I don't know what the hell's going on inside that building. They should be looking at this as a huge opportunity in their favor.
And when you say that, do you mean spending significantly in free agency when they may have been pumping the brakes because of the salary cap? Like, how do you press the accelerator?
Yeah, I mean, I think you just have to be a little bit more aggressive. But you have to be aggressive in a smart way. Like I don't think you can do what the Washington Commanders did last year, for instance, right? Like Jaden Daniels comes in and he has an even more impactful rookie season than Shuck did, right? Takes him to the NFC Championship game, and they're like, and Washington says our window is now. But then the way they went about doing that was to basically trade away all of their good assets to acquire a bunch of older players who were in the back half of their career, and it kind of blew up on him. I mean, obviously, like, Jaden was hurt, but like that roster around him was old. And I don't think the Saints can take that sort of tack, right? I think they can be more aggressive in free agency than they would have been, without just like pushing like literally every chip in and trying to go out and get like Brandon Ayuk or something like that, with like one of their premier draft picks or whatever the case is, right? Pick a player, pick a free agent. Like if they want to sign George Pickens, right? Like I think that might be a little bit too aggressive. If you're talking about a guy who's going to be making like $39 million a year. But like when you're looking at everything they've got set up, their cap situation by next year, like this year looks much better than it has in a long time. But by next year, you're talking about like Derek Carr's contract completely off the books. All these veteran contracts that you have are off the books. Like you could be set up next year to be in a position like the New England Patriots were in last year, where they had like $120 million of cap space to spend. You can maybe dip into that a little bit early without going crazy to build around this rookie quarterback who is just a huge bargaining chip in your favor.
What position would you start with trying to be cautiously aggressive?
Well, if I'm looking at free agency, I think the class of interior offensive linemen is actually pretty decent this time around. Now we'll see what happens. Obviously, with the teams can bring their own guys back, and the class might not look nearly as good by the time we're getting to March 15th or whatever the negotiating window opens up. But I think that's where I would like put my free agent money into getting I think your tackles you feel pretty good about. Get your interior offensive line shored up. It wouldn't surprise me if they, even though they are coming off a really good year defensively, if they invested a little bit of money into getting more of Brandon Staley's type of guys in that defensive unit. You got to remember they transitioned from a 4-3 to a 3-4, and the transition went really well, but they're still playing out of, like, their personnel was kind of out of whack a little bit for what Staley really wants to do. I think you can invest a little bit more there. And then I would use the draft to try to find like explosive offensive players, especially at the top of the draft. That's something that's really, it costs a lot of money to really get that. If you're doing it in free agency, get it cheap. I think you feel really good about it there. And that's how I would go about it. I'm not an NFL GM, but I think that's going to be the right way, and that's how I would kind of hope that the map I kind of hope the Saints follow this offseason.
How do you think the conversations go with Cam Jordan and Demario Davis?
I mean, the Demario one is, I think, a little bit more clear and upfront. And, he hasn't, like, Demario's made like good but not great money for basically the entire length of his contract. Like he's taken like under, for a baseball comp here, it's like under slot money, right?
Yeah.
Basically like the entire length of his deal. I think they'll work that out pretty easily. The Cam one's just it's really interesting. He's basically said, like, I don't want to play this game again where I'm playing for incentives. Pay me what I'm worth. We'll see if the Saints view his value as the same way Cam Jordan does. Yeah, I think he clearly wants to play some more. I think he clearly showed this year that he has some more left in the tank, and he has more to offer as a player. It's just, does his value align with what the Saints think his value is? And can they like reach an agreement there? I'm sure there's going to be like at least some level of like hometown discount that Jordan would be willing to take because he wants to spend his whole career in one place. But I don't think it's like, I don't think he's at the point of his career where he's like, yeah, I'll take whatever you offer to come back. Cause it means that much to me. I think there's an element to him that, there's an element of pride there that, we'll probably, he'll want real money from the Saints to come back.
We'll see how it all plays out. I'll send you a Bregman poster, okay?
Yeah, make sure it's the LSU variety. I don't want any of that other nonsense in my life.
We appreciate it, man. We'll talk next week.
Sounds good, buddy. See you.
Luke Johnson with the Advocate, NOLA.com, covering the black and gold. It's a fascinating offseason. I'm very curious to see how Mickey Loomis approaches this because it's changed since December 1st. It just has. So I'm very, very curious to see how it all plays out. We got some more football that we've got to watch, which I'll do gladly. How much of the nation's just going to be glued to NFL football, locked in their houses this weekend. But we got to get that out of the way, and then free agency will crank up, and I'm curious to see how all that plays out. We'll talk to Luke about the Senior Bowl when he comes on next week. Our guys will be there all week long, Monday through Friday at the Senior Bowl. Matt Flynn, Jake Hester, they'll be there for the morning show, 3 hours every day from Mobile. So very much looking forward to that. When we come back, LSU, where do they rank in ESPN's way too early top 25 for next year in college football? And what about the teams that they play? There's one notable omission from the top 25. We'll talk about it next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
It's the Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com, HighlandIG.com. Mentioned it yesterday. I'll mention it again today. Like a lot of folks are going to be looking at their insurance policies over the course of the next 10 days because a lot of power outages, ice damage, trees falling, car accidents, all those type of things. You can see this storm coming from a few days away, but not from a year away. And you just want to make sure that you don't have to look back at your policy to make sure things are going to work. With the Highland Insurance Group, you're not going to do that. Jonathan Carper and his team are going to take care of you on the front end so that when that storm comes and when these issues arise, you have the peace of mind to know that you're covered. That's what insurance is here to do. It's not always just about seeing how much you can save on the front end. And oftentimes it's about how much coverage and peace of mind do you get on the back end. And when something like this happens, which we think more about hurricanes, but these events do happen, is your business covered if you can't operate for 4 or 5 days? You would be if you're with the Highland Insurance Group. Talk to them. Get a second set of eyes on your policy. Make sure you are covered for the next weather event. It's the Highland Insurance Group. Find them online at HighlandIG.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Seaton Farms.
Maybe this weekend, maybe early next week, not the greatest time to get out on the roads. A lot of times that's the way people like to shop for vehicles, but you don't have to go to the dealership to shop for a vehicle. You can go online. How about FabryChevrolet.com? FabryChevrolet.com. The entire inventory that's right there on the lot in St. Francisville on Highway 61 is online at FabryChevrolet.com. So if you're thinking, might want to get into a new ride this year, lease is coming up, or just feel like it's time for a change, you need an SUV? How about a Tahoe? How about a Suburban? Maybe on the GMC side, you want a Denali. One of my friends, as I mentioned earlier this week, came over to our house and dropped something off in their new Denali. Just a gorgeous vehicle. You want to get behind the wheel of one of those? Fabry Chevrolet has got them in stock at their new location, Highway 61 in St. Francisville. They took over on October the 1st, but you know the Fabry family has been at this 35 years. Great customer service, great buying experience, service after the sale, and a brand new location on Highway 61 in St. Francisville. So our weather's going to be okay on Saturday to get out and maybe see a vehicle if you want to. By the time Sunday evening rolls around into Monday, we might want to hang home. But you can, and check out that inventory at FabryChevrolet.com. Again, FabryChevrolet.com. All right, excited to talk to Brody Miller in 25 minutes. Brody was on the LSU football beat for The Athletic. He's moved over to the PGA Tour. I always follow his work there. He does an awesome job covering golf. We're not talking golf, though. We're talking his Hoosiers. He's a proud Indiana grad. He was there in Miami for the national championship, and just want to get his eyes and ears on that moment in time where a school that, I want to talk to him about what football games were like when he was in school, because I'm feeling they had 13,000 people there and they got beat by 40 every week. And I just want to know what that was like to see them reach all the way to the top. And easy enough. Transition to ESPN's way too early top 25. Mark Slayball put it together. Number 1 preseason, the Indiana Hoosiers. No Mendoza, no Surratt, Pat Coogan at center gone, Roman Hemby, Stephen Daly, their defensive lineman who they didn't have for the playoff, gone. Aiden Fisher, Lewis Moore, those are all the guys expected to leave, but they're still preseason number 1. They bring in Josh Hoover from TCU at quarterback, and they expect things to keep on trucking. I'm curious to see if they can do it, but less interested in that for the terms of this discussion, more interested about the LSU Tigers and what ESPN thinks of LSU. I wasn't sure what ESPN was going to do with this because I know that ESPN thinks a lot of Sam Leavitt, and obviously ESPN's going to think a lot of Lane Kiffin as a coach. I think that he's going to wear the villain hat nationally for a lot of folks. But what do you think when you bring in 41 transfers? Like, what do you think that team's going to look like? And the answer is that ESPN spit out LSU at number 15 in its way too early poll. Says key additions that they're mentioning here: Sam Leavitt, obviously, Jace Brown, who I've talked a lot about from Kansas State, Trey Wilson from Florida, Winnie Watkins, a wide receiver from Ole Miss, Trey Brown, the Old Dominion wide receiver, Jordan Ross, 5-star edge rusher from Tennessee, Stephylan Green, who started on the defensive line for Clemson, Ty Benefield, the safety from Boise State, Devin Harper, who comes over from Ole Miss on the offensive line, TJ Daugherty does the same at linebacker, Malik Blockton from Auburn. These are the key additions they're talking about for LSU. And they feel like the Tigers slot in at number 15. I think that's probably fair. It's hard for me to give a hot take on that, being that I don't really know what anybody else's roster looks like. There's just too much turnover. And oftentimes this time of year, in a bygone era, we would just say, okay, who's your coach? Who's your quarterback? Like, what'd you do last year? And that's kind of how you frame the next discussion. Now there's so much upheaval that you kind of toss them into a bucket and throw them on the floor and see what comes out. But I think 15 is probably fair. The other piece of this puzzle that I wanted to look at is about LSU's schedule. Where do you have those teams? Who's ranked really high? Who do they really like? And who's not? And the highest ranked team on LSU's schedule is Texas. That's not surprising. Coach, quarterback, you got those 2 boxes checked. That's Steve Sarkisian. That's Arch Manning. They got Texas at number 2. The second highest team on LSU's schedule is number 9, Ole Miss. I was interested to see them put Ole Miss at number 9, and so I wanted to go read the blog, and they are suggesting that the Rebels would be ranked higher if the committee had approved Trinidad Chambliss for a 6th year. So this is essentially ruling out Trinidad Chambliss, which I don't think is going to be the case. I think he's playing. If Charles Bediako can come back from the G League and play at Alabama a week later, Trinidad Chambliss is playing football next year. Best I can tell.
So they're saying that even without Trinidad Chambliss, Ole Miss is preseason higher than LSU. Well, way too early. Okay.
With Deuce Knight at quarterback.
Okay.
So that's where they've got things.
Make sure I'm following along.
They said they got a pair of insurance policies if Chambliss is done, Deuce Knight and Louisiana's Walker Howard. So we'll see. But that's the second highest ranked team on LSU's schedule, right behind Ole Miss, a team that comes to Tiger Stadium, the Texas A&M Aggies. And I get that too. A&M loses some firepower, sure, on the outside, but they do, and they lose their entire offensive line. Like losing Concepcion obviously hurts. Your whole offensive line is gone. Cassius Howell, the SEC Defensive Player of the Year. Torian York's been a stalwart for them at linebacker. Will Lee was a really good cover man for him. But they bring in Isaiah Horton from Alabama. They bring in Wilkin Formley, who was a starter on Alabama's offensive line. Tyree Adams comes in. Cohen Eccles comes in. So that's kind of what they're going to do with their offensive line. They also brought in one from South Carolina. And so, look, I think Elko's a good coach, and I think Marcel Reed's pretty good. I did not say Marcel Reed was going to win the Heisman. I did not say Marcel Reed was as good as he was against LSU, even though he did turn the ball over a little bit. I think he's a pretty good player, and I think there's a lot of teams in the SEC that would like to have him. It's kind of the way I felt about Nussmeier entering last year, where, like, I'm not telling you he's going to win the Heisman. I'm not telling you that he's the first pick in the draft, but he's pretty good. And, well, I hope A&M loses as many games as LSU did this past year, but they've got him ranked at number 10. And then you go down to number 21 for the next team on LSU's schedule. And that is the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Wow.
Number 21.
Wow.
It's just hard for me to say out loud. I knew it was coming. Everyone knew it was coming. Everyone knew that they were going to take steps back. It's impossible, one, to sustain what Saban did. Even under the old rules, it would have been impossible. The new rules, where it's just lawlessness, and we got people at the top we never figured we'd see at the top, and we've got teams at the top that have taken a big step back. Number 20 in the preseason, 21 is wild to me. And then you got another road trip for LSU. Number 24 is the Tennessee Vols. So the ranked teams at LSU schedule: Texas at 2, Ole Miss at 9, A&M at 10, Bama at 21, Tennessee at 24. Noticeably absent from these rankings, Clemson.
Yeah.
Absent. You lose that defensive front. The two guys that we talked about all August, gone to the draft, Stefan Green, who started for him in defensive front, plays for LSU now. You lose your starting quarterback, who Klubnik wasn't a superstar that a lot of people thought he would be, but that's a guy that's out of eligibility. So what are they? And I just don't know. Like, Dabo is still not completely embraced this new era. I'm not criticizing his personal beliefs in any way. But when you say we're not about transfer portals, and then you say when it comes to NIL, we're in the name, image, and likeness of Jesus Christ, like, that's a perfectly fine thing to say, but it doesn't help you win football games. Like, it's not going to get you a defensive end. So I don't know. I don't know if Clemson's any good or not, but ESPN doesn't have them ranked. And then you've got 4 SEC games for LSU unranked. LSU's at Kentucky, at Auburn, at Arkansas. None of those teams ranked. You wouldn't expect them to be ranked. You're talking about coaching changes, all 3 of those spots. And then Mississippi State is not ranked, and I wouldn't expect them to be ranked either. So interesting. You got 5 ranked teams on your schedule, 5 unranked teams, and then 2 way out of conference games that wouldn't be ranked anyway with Louisiana Tech. And is it McNeese on next year?
Yeah, it's McNeese.
So, obviously they're not going to be ranked. They're in the FCS. So of the 10 games, 5 ranked, 5 non-ranked, 3 of those unranked on the road, 2 ranked teams on the road. But Bama 21 and Tennessee 24 in these rankings.
I can't believe that, man. I really just can't believe you just said Bama was 21. That doesn't even sound realistic at all. But I guess this is the day and age of where we at.
It just depends on what you want to say about the season Alabama just had. Do you want to say they went 10-2 and beat Georgia? Because I told you in August they're going to go beat Georgia in Athens and go 10-2. You would go, that's a good year. Yeah. They're in the playoff, like, okay, a nice job. But if I add on, they went to the SEC championship game and were completely non-competitive, and then they got annihilated in the Rose Bowl. Like, I mean, they won a playoff game. They went to Oklahoma and won, but they lost 4 games. So losing 4 games, that's 5 years worth of Saban ball.
Yeah.
You lose 4 games in 5 years under Saban. They've lost 4 games a year in the 2 years under DeBoer.
See, I think what you just said, they're just suffering from success. They're suffering from Saban's success like any other – I'm going to say any other franchise – well, franchise, not NFL. Basically. Any other program in SEC will probably be happy with that year. But you're talking about Alabama, who goes from just being the bully on the block to getting bullied. Like, we just watched Indiana bully Alabama. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, they're not – it's going to be hard to follow up Saban. They're just in a hole at this point.
Yep. All right, a little bit of an update on Jordan Seaton. Not anything final. No, it's just kind of I had to my guy Shea Dixon. He did some research there on enrollment stuff, and something's got to happen in the next 24 hours. I don't see a way around it. That's the way Shea sees it as well. Kind of get you caught up on that to finish out the hour next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Love telling you about my friends over at Auctioner. Of course, our visits every other Wednesday with one of their physicians, Dr. Jeremy Burnham. We always appreciate those. Had one yesterday, but we've also got some other great things going on over at Auctioner, including the Alcohol-Free for 40 Challenge. 40-day reset to help you sleep better, boost your energy, feel your best. Not about giving anything up forever. But you sign up, you get access to some pre- and post-challenge metrics, body composition, blood pressure, some labs, and you can see the changes your body makes over 40 days. If you look at the statistics, people that have done alcohol-free for 40 report clearer skin, more focus, brighter mood, better sleep, and usually happens in the first couple of weeks. So if you're looking to kickstart 2026 a different way and go alcohol-free for 40, you can learn more and sign up right now. Registration's open at alcoholfreefor40.com. That's the number 40, alcoholfreefor40.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Thursday show is brought to you by Segrera Farms Premium Angus Beef, some of the best beef in the country, and it's right here just north of Baton Rouge in Ethel. If you're looking to buy beef a different way because you understand rising prices, herd levels are the lowest they've been potentially since the 50s and 60s, but the demand is way greater because our population's grown so much. So prices have reflected that. And when you buy beef, you're not sure what the quality is going to be, not sure how many DNA are packed into that beef. You can answer all those questions at Segrera Farms. They haven't raised their prices once. Now, if you're going to pay a premium because of the supply and demand issues where you're buying your beef right now, why not pay the premium for premium beef? That's what you get at Segrera Farms. You can fill your freezer, so you've always got ground beef ready to go. You've always got fillets and strips and ribeyes you want to entertain or watch the big game. You've always got big roast when you want to put a slow cooker on. And it's always prime. And it's always got one DNA. And you know that there's no improper use of antibiotics. There's no steroids. It's just a different way to buy your beef. It's the best way to buy your beef. We've got a freezer full right now at the Palmer House. It is fantastic. Segrera Farms, Premium Angus Beef. Just give Sean a call. I give you Sean's number every single week. That's how this thing works. You call Sean. You go out to the farm. You see him. You see the operation. You get that beat, head it back to the house. And then you've got it for months on end. Call Sean 225-719-1723. 225-719-1723. Segrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. LSU just sent out a tweet. Prince Will Umanmielen, officially an LSU Tiger. Ole Miss's leading sack man, 9 sacks last year, had over a dozen tackles for loss for the Rebels. He will now be on LSU's defensive front for next year. Great add on the edge. You add him to Gabriel Relaford. You add him to Jordan Ross. Add him to Jalen Brown from South Carolina. Feel like you've got some guys that can get after the passer, and Umanmielen certainly can do that. As far as Jordan Seaton go, I just don't have an answer for you because nobody seems to. Now, hat tip to Shea Dixon over at the Bengal Tiger. Looked at enrollment deadlines for the schools that are coveting Seaton. Like LSU's is today. Miami's was yesterday. Mississippi State's today. And then Oregon's got a different deal where you can use a petition, and that goes a little bit further into the spring, so there's no real rush there. It feels like something's got to happen here. I mean, if we get to tomorrow at lunchtime, tomorrow at 4 p.m., tomorrow by the end of my show, 3 o'clock on Friday, and you have not heard anything about Jordan Seaton, that just doesn't sound very good to LSU to me. And with Miami's final day to register classes on yesterday, the 21st, that doesn't feel great for them either. Oregon's the one who's got some time. And this is not an educated opinion. It just is one based on my gut. It felt like when Seaton left Baton Rouge after being here for 2 days and did not make anything official, that was a negative for LSU. I did not say disqualifying. It just felt like a negative. And then when you see Dan Lanning pop up in Atlanta, you're like, okay, well, you got a fight on your hands. And Kiffin's fighting. Trust me, he went. But it just feels like the longer things drag out, the more variables are at play. There just aren't as many variables when he's in Baton Rouge, on campus at LSU, with the LSU staff, able to get things done right there, and then he doesn't get it done. Now, Levitt left and ended up at LSU, so it can happen. We saw Brendan Sorsby. I was interested in Coach McGuire with Matt yesterday on AFR. Said, yeah, we wanted him to sign with us at Texas Tech and then not go to LSU. But he told me, I gave Coach Kiffin my word I was going to come. I'm going to go. And then I will call you when I'm done. And he did that. So certainly guys can leave and then sign back from afar. But you're introducing more variables, obviously. I don't know how this thing ends. I really don't. I don't know. It's a big deal. I know that. I'm not going to minimize the addition or the lack of the addition of Jordan Seaton either way. I mean, I was at the box yesterday watching some baseball, and listener comes up, introduces himself, and says, what you think on Seaton? I spoke at a men's club back on Monday night in Metairie. What do you think about Seaton? It's all anybody's really talking about, but the story hasn't really developed since Tuesday, maybe Monday. So it's a holding pattern. There's just not a lot to say. Y'all know how good he is. Y'all know how badly LSU wants him. You know what schools are in the mix. You know when the deadline appears to be at certain points throughout this week, and it's just very, very quiet. And I just think that it's going to come on one big announcement from Nakos or Zenitz or maybe one of the local reporting guys, but somebody will get it through the uncle and the agency, and it'll break. But until then, it's just a holding pattern with Jordan Seaton. It would just be a massive deal if LSU could get a potential first-round left tackle to come in and play next year. But Oregon certainly feels the same way. Miami certainly feels the same way, and we'll see if Mississippi State is in the mix as well. I have my doubts about that one, but we'll see. Jordan Seaton to make his announcement maybe today or tomorrow. We'll talk about it when that does, in fact, happen. You missed any of hour number one? Well, we covered a lot. Talked to LSU baseball in the first segment. I was out there yesterday for the scrimmage and gave my thoughts. You can also read about that at louisianasports.net. Luke Johnson came on, talked about the Saints offseason, Tyler Shuck and how he changes things and what they may need to do, what the strategy may be for New Orleans. You can catch that at Hunt on Saints on YouTube or wherever you find your podcast. Talked about the preseason top 25. Way too early, top 25 for ESPN.com, and where LSU's opponents rank in that, as well as where the Tigers are. You can catch that at Hunt on LSU. We got a lot to do in hour number two as well. Decided to talk to Brody Miller coming up in 5 minutes about his time watching his alma mater win a national championship on Monday, and we'll talk to Chris Blair about travel plans for LSU with the weather upcoming and the game against Arkansas on Saturday night. Come back with us for hour two.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
First American Bank and Trust. First American Bank and Trust. Their management team has been with them for 25 years on average. 25 years. That shows you the kind of environment that they've created at First American Bank and Trust. It's why they've grown to 25 locations, but they've kept that community feel. They're all right here in Southeast Louisiana. Whether you're down the bayou in St. John or Lafourche, Terrebonne, up the I-12 corridor in St. Tammany or Tangipahoa, close to Baton Rouge and Dutchtown, no matter where you are in Southeast Louisiana, there's a First American Bank and Trust branch right there because there's 25 of them. And they're part of your community. The people that you're doing business with, the people that are approving your loans are part of your community. They're the people you go to church with, people your kids go to school with. It's a big, big bank, but it's got a local feel. That's the beauty of doing business with First American Bank and Trust. So walk on in. Your commercial loans, your personal loans, say hey to the folks at First American Bank and Trust.